Hi guys, so just a quick update on the diet after the first week. I'm down 3.5 pounds and I've lost 1 centimetre from my waist, so off to a decent start. Feeling pretty good, training is going well with the new split. As I'm now into my second week, I wanted to share my own personal experience and insight into what you might expect when you first start a diet and how you might want to track your own progress. So starting with weight, as I said, I've lost 3.5 pounds this week, which can be fairly typical for a first week. In fact, it's not uncommon to see a dramatic loss of up to 6 or 7 pounds, depending on what your body weight is and your starting position. However, don't get too excited and be fooled into thinking that that's fat loss, because in the first week of a diet, it's actually very unlikely that that's the case. There's a few reasons why this might be. Firstly, if you think about when you start a diet, you're either coming from maintenance calories or a calorie surplus. So your body will likely have more than enough energy to sustain itself in an initial deficit without needing to start using significant amounts of stored body fat for fuel. What will happen though is as your calorie deficit starts to negatively compound over the coming days, your muscle glycogen levels will start to deplete somewhat, especially if you're training really hard and lowering your intake of carbs. When you lose glycogen, you also lose water. In fact, for every molecule of glycogen stored within the muscle cell, there are 3 to 4 molecules of water. So as glycogen levels drop, so does water, which would account for some of the weight loss you will see during the first week of a diet. As glycogen levels start to deplete further over the coming days and weeks, your body will start to switch to using stored body fat for fuel to make up for that deficit. Secondly, if I use my own example, I've just dropped my food from 3,600 calories to 2,400. That's a 33% reduction in total food going through my system every day, which can also account for some temporary weight loss. This brings me on to tracking and why you shouldn't just rely on the scales. Weighing yourself on the scales on any given day can give readings that can be out by plus or minus 1 or 2 pounds due to factors such as stress, sleep, food intake the previous day, sodium and hydration levels, and monthly cycles. It's also the reason why people who only weigh themselves once a week can get a bit upset when their weight has stayed the same or gone up, even though it's possible that they might have lost fat but gained water. A better way to use the scales is to weigh yourself more frequently through the week and take an average score. Compare the average of one week to the average of another week. This will give you a much more accurate picture of what's going on. This is also why it's always a good idea to use a second form of measurement to track fat loss. So for me, I always like to use a tape measure around my waist, as that's typically where the majority of fat accumulates for me and most people. But you can also use chest, arm and leg measurements as well. If the tape measure is going down but the scales stay the same, then I'm not really too bothered. But if they both stay the same, then that might indicate that things may not have progressed that week. Now, that's not to say that scales are wrong. In fact, even though they can be out from day to day or week to week, over a longer time frame, they will still show a reliable downward trend if fat is being lost. Lastly, if you do use the scales, try to be consistent in how and when you use them, preferably first thing in the morning, before any food, and before you get dressed. Hope this has been useful. As always, don't forget to like, subscribe, or leave a comment below.